Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios. On the phone this week, I have Trace Trylko. Trace, how you doing?
Pretty good. Traveling for work. Hello, everyone.
Alrighty, this is episode number 58, and we have another loss to talk about. Trace, what do you have to say about the game this last week?
I think we're the best 0-9 team in the country, Andrew. Of course, we're the only 0-9 team in the country. Hey, you know, there's consistency we can give UCF credit for. 52 points given up last week, 52 points given up this week. As former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel said on his Twitter feed, where is the pride? They certainly didn't seem to show up in Cincinnati. The route was on early and often, and it was an embarrassment all the way around.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that players are kind of... Well, I talked to Kyle Israel about this, a little bit earlier, taping his segment, and we said that we feel that they've kind of laid down a little bit. That's unfortunate, and we don't like to say that, but I think that that's the case. What do you think?
I think that is the case. I mean, where was the fight? We saw some glimpses of things in terms of a little bit of a running game, but I'll tell you the quote that stood out to me on the Orlando Sentinel recap of the game was from cornerback Shaquille Griffin, who said before the game, emotions were great, everybody was ready to play and play fast, and then he says as soon as they got the first touchdown, you could see it on everybody's face. They kind of dropped down like we couldn't do it, and we can't think like that. After the game, it's just somber because we took a big L and it wasn't expected. Count me in on this, and I messaged you during the game about this, but maybe I bought into the Danny Barrett as interim head coach, going to the coach's radio show on Tuesday night. I like him, and I think he's a good guy and a good coach, but I really thought they were going to respond to him and maybe show us something a little bit different than we've seen through 8 games. But I'll tell you, there's so many aspects to the team that seem to be getting worse. I mean, if that's possible, the tackling was atrocious, and as John Swift will tell us, crunching the numbers in a few moments, the defensive statistics are just heading south. I mean, it feels in so many ways like the team is getting worse. Like
I said a little bit ago, I think that they're laying down and they just want to get the season over with. Now, one positive that I can pull out of this thing is a number of 212 yards rushing. That is much, much more than we've had in any game so far. That probably, maybe even, I don't know how many yards rushing that we have for the entire season, but that may be very close to that. 212 yards rushing, 125 by C.J. Jones. I think that is something that's different, and I think it's something that's glaring about the game. It didn't look like there were that many rushing yards, but I guess altogether there were. And, he did have 151 yard in, kind of the garbage time, and that, makes that stat a lot better, but still, 212 yards on the ground. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that the fact that we're talking about week 9 of the season, scoring the first rushing touchdown by a running back, just shows you where the season has been so far. It is a positive that I think, C.J. Jones is a good player and going to be a good player for UCF. I'll tell you, there was a statistic shown during the game, the number of first-year players that have played a game, first start. I mean, it's just through the roof, the number of first-year guys out there. And you can only hope when you think back to the last winless campaign, and there's still a couple of games to go, so it doesn't mean that the UCF is going to go winless. But they turn things around from an 0-11 to, a bowl season. And, boy, trial by fire, you hope these guys are getting all that valuable game day experience and that it pays off and begins to turn things around next year and the year after. But, boy, oh, boy, it's just tough to watch this team. One statistic that benefits Cincinnati in that game is that their starting quarterback, Gunnar Thiel, 15 of 15 for 319 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Where was the defense Saturday against Cincinnati?
They obviously didn't show up, but let's hear what Coach Barrett had to say after the game.
We talked about not giving up the big play, and that's all it was, the game of big plays. You look at the numbers on the board, almost 500 yards passing. How many of those were big plays? 4 or 5 of those led to the most damage and everything. So we got to find the right combination of guys on the back end, that can that help us out, quit giving up easy plays. Again, it's the same thing. We told the guys we're better than what we're showing. So, it's about hard work. It's about guys, wanting to be out here and want to represent UCF in the right way. It's about having some night pride. That's the bottom line. And that's how you move forward. Everything starts with the head coach, So like I told him in there, I take full responsibility. We got to get them ready to play. But more importantly, we got to get the right people on the field. We're limited in some areas, but we got to find the right people to get on the football field that can do the basic things that we're asking them to do. I thought the guys up front did a pretty decent job, but too many easy plays. The first 3 touchdown passes was a catch and a missed tackle. 3rd and 20, ball over the top, blown coverage, things like that. You can't afford to do that against good football teams. You can't afford to do that against anybody. Again, I take full responsibility.
One thing that he just said right there that is very exciting to me is, again, I take full responsibility. That's one thing that we have not heard around here for a very long time, a coach saying something like that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear, of course, as Kyle Israel said to you last week. I don't know that it helps in terms of the outcome, but it is good to hear the accountability. I think Coach Barrett is a stand-up guy. As we look to next week's game at Tulsa, something that you had brought up in a couple of previous weeks, whether Justin Holman is up for the starting quarterback job and whether we might see a different face at Tulsa. What's your thoughts on that after this latest performance by Holman?
Well, I talk in depth with Kyle Israel about that, but I'll say right here, before that, he's not playing up to his full potential, and I think that someone else should start the game against Tulsa. I said this on the radio the other day when I was on with Eric Lopez on 1080. I said that, it's time for Tyler Harris to come out and maybe play, or Bo Schneider. I would probably start Harris just to see what he could do in a starting role. We've seen what Bo can do. Right now, it's a toss-up between those 3. I think either one of them could start and maybe make things a little bit better.
Well, as we've been talking about, that this is an opportunity for these players to show something. I mean, this is a bit of an audition for the next coach, whoever that is, as we transition into a discussion on that. The news about Coach O'Leary stepping down happened on Sunday right before we went to record a week ago, and we've had a week to think about all of the fallout from that. But this is an opportunity for those players to put their best foot forward and really show something, and you really feel like it's going to be an open quarterback competition for the next head coach. Goodness sake, it's going to be an open competition at all positions for the next coach and coaching staff. But, on that point, Andrew, search underway now for a new athletic director and a new head coach. And as I mentioned to you yesterday when we were messaging back and forth, a lot is going to happen in a very short period of time because these pieces need to be put into place before December comes around, so that UCF has an opportunity to salvage something during recruiting.
Yeah, they need to get on that, and it needs to happen soon because they do need to get onto the recruiting trail for sure. I mean, that's a thing that should have been well in place by now. Of course, things happen late in the season, but I think that that's one thing, especially it's going to hurt recruiting if they don't get on that quickly. There's some names out there. I honestly haven't done my research enough on the names that are out there to know really what I would think about each candidate or whatever, but I think we need at some point a list of who the actual candidates are.
It's a hot stove league now. You're going to hear a lot of names of both the AD position, head coach position. It's, the dream big, but I'll tell you what, Houston, which beat Vanderbilt this week at the SEC, moved up in the rankings. They made a coaching change last year, brought in the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. Look at them now, undefeated, 8-0, climbing in the polls. So it is possible to steal an up-and-coming coach to really make a difference in a short period of time for UCF and really get the ground running. So, it's going to be interesting. I think we can talk in the next couple of weeks, especially that bye week coming up, the more of the names bouncing around. You were on 1080 talking about, why don't you share that? Because I listened to it from afar, but I thought the name you floated was an interesting name. Why don't you share that?
Well, I said Bo Pelini, ex-Nebraska Cornhusker head coach. He's at Youngstown State right now. He has a heck of a record in college football, win-loss record. He's 70-31. I don't know what happened at Youngstown State this weekend, But when I looked that up before, it was 70 wins, 31 losses. He's got a lot of history. He's got Power 5 history. He knows how to recruit. He's coached at big-time college universities. That's one coach that I think should be in the mix. His name should at least come up.
I think since we've had a week to digest Coach O'Leary stepping down, and now we've had Coach Barrett's first game, this will be a week where we maybe poke around, look at some of the names, or give us something to talk about on next week's show. You know, UCF one more game before a bye week. They've got Tulsa on the road. We've got the Tulsa Insider coming up. Two interesting factoids from the week, Andrew. You know, the basement in Orlando, the bar that made all the national headlines for the free beer, has now offered George O'Leary free beer for life. I'm not sure he's going to take him up on that, but Uber has jumped into things as well, offering fans free rides until the Knights win a football game. So if you drink or drink a little too much at one of the local establishments, Uber's going to help you get home safely. So some people trying to capitalize on UCF's misfortune for sure.
Yeah, that's cool for them, but, you know, I hope that doesn't last very long. I just hope that in these last 3 games that we have left, we can get a win. I don't really think that it's going to happen, to be honest with you, but it would sure be nice.
As I messaged you during the game, Andrew, first there were 4 teams remaining without a win. Then North Texas won its game, so that took it down to 3, and then New Mexico State won on a bizarre interception at the end. UCF remains one of only 2 teams still winless, and I know you know very well that other team is your beloved Kansas Jayhawks. Who'd have thunk when this season began 2.5 months ago that the 2 teams left without a win would be UCF and Kansas?
Well, I'm going to blame this on the curse of the cabana. I've been talking about that, and I haven't said it a lot, but I'm blaming this on the curse of the cabana this year. That thing was a dumb mistake. It looks stupid in the stadium, and I'm blaming the curse of the cabana. That's my deal on everything.
That works for me. You know, I'm no big fan of that big yellow hole in the side of the stadium, so I like that, coining the term the curse of the cabana. We've been talking about 0-9 and some of the statistics that came out of that game. Our own John Swift has been crunching the numbers and has come up with some real gems this week.
Welcome to Crunching the Numbers, featuring John Swift.
Hello, Knight fans. This week's segment, we're going to focus on the defense again. They've gotten progressively worse. The last 2 games, we've given up 63 first downs. We're averaging giving up 663 yards to our opponents. That's 56 points a game over the last 2 games. 8.8 yards per an attempt we're giving up. 9 consecutive quarters we've given up points, and 18 of our last 20 quarters of play we've given up points. That has pushed our defense to, in the nation, ranked 109 in total defense, 106 in scoring defense, 104 in first down defense, 109 in third down defense, giving up 45% conversions to our opponents, and 122nd in defensive pass efficiency. Hey, congrats to C.J. Jones. He broke an 11-game drought of a UCF running back running for over 100 yards, cashing in on 123 yards. We got Tulsa next week. Hopefully we can look better. This is John Swift, and this has been Crunching the Numbers.
Well, let us hope, Andrew and John, that we can avoid the 0-10 start. You know, as it is, it's 9 straight losses to begin this season, plus the bowl loss. We've already lost 10 straight games. You spoke earlier with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, who has just been a hit with the Knightline podcast listeners. So much chatter on the message board during the week. People appreciating Kyle's inside perspective, having played for Coach O'Leary for those years and having been a part of the program for so many. He's brought a good insight. And I'll tell you one thing that we've been talking about, and you and Kyle spoke about, is what qualities you want in that head coach. And I think that is the big topic of conversation amongst Knights fans. What do we want? For me, I want an offensive, guru. I don't know that I necessarily want someone that is old school or necessarily a defense-first coach. So let's hear what former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel says about that and the breakdown of this week's game.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando. All right, joining us again to talk about this UCF team after a loss at Cincinnati, 52-7, is Kyle Israel. Kyle, how you doing tonight? And what do you think of what happened in Cincinnati the other day?
Well, I'm doing good, thank you. But I think ultimately we were just outmatched. Cincinnati is, and that's probably speaking nicely, but Cincinnati's a really talented football team. They got two really good quarterbacks. I'd love to have one of those guys right now, either or. They just have a lot of weapons. I think that they're very good at the skill positions, and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot there early on when we had a chance to be in that ball game. We go down, we kick the field goal, we miss it, bounces off the upright, and really have a chance, in my opinion, to put some scores on the board early on that probably would have changed the dynamic of the entire game. But once Cincinnati started rolling there, and Gunnar Kiel, I don't think he had an incomplete pass. He was 15-15 at one point. I don't know if he ever had an incomplete pass in the game. I'd have to double check, but that's a very good coached football team by Tommy Tuberville, and unfortunately it didn't seem like our defense showed up yesterday.
Yeah, I was trying to look for that stat on Gunnar Kiel. He did have an incredible game. They racked up 489 yards of passing, which was incredible and shows a lot that our defense cannot keep up with teams like this for sure. Incredible numbers for them, but also really bad stats for us.
Yeah, it definitely is the worst performance I've seen defensively, and I don't know. I know that we are certainly overmatched at the skill position, but it looked like there, honestly, Andrew, that the guys definitely, I don't know if gave up was the right term, but something along those lines there. Once we got down 21-0 and we had an opportunity really to keep it close, like I said there at the beginning, everybody just kind of shut it down, in my opinion. And, that's never something that you want to see, but it's also something that I'm not surprised to be seeing at this point in the season with everything that went on with Coach O'Leary. I know they wanted to go out there and win this game or be competitive in this game for him. And obviously we were not able to do that. And it just goes to show, really how big of a gap at this point in time there is between UCF and the other upper echelon teams in this conference, and really how good of a conference the American is this year. When you look at the way Temple played against Notre Dame, and you look at Memphis and Houston, Cincinnati, they're not undefeated, but they're right there as another top-tier team in this conference. And that just goes to show if we're gonna get back up there in the next couple of years with these guys, we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we can't keep up with any of them, even with our 212 yards on the ground, 101 yards passing. That tells a tale right there. We had 313 yards altogether against Cincy's 726 yards of offense. That's insane. But let's talk about this number here real quick, 212 yards rushing. That's a huge number that we have not put up this year so far. C.J. Jones by himself had 125 of that, I believe. So that's the first runner in 11 games, I believe, that has been over 100 yards. That's not a good stat.
No, it's not a very good stat, and good for C.J. Jones. I think a lot of that came on, obviously, on the one run, the 51-yard run, and it was really a lot of any yards that our running backs gained were second effort runs. So the running backs were certainly playing hard. I think our offensive line, I don't know how positive I can be, but our offensive line is really bad. And that is probably, in my mind, the most glaring position on the field and on the team, really, that we have to improve this offseason. I mean, we have to get way, way better at the offensive line position. And some of those guys are going to get older and mature and get stronger in the weight room, and I think those type of things will help. But when we get a new athletic director and ultimately a new head coach, recruiting at that position is going to be a huge factor. Recruiting across the board is going to be huge, but at the offensive line position for the next couple of years, we're going to have to get some solid guys this year. And if you think over the years, offensive line has been one of our better strengths on our UCF football teams, and put a number of guys into the NFL at that position. So, you got to give credit to C.J. Jones and for what he did in the running game. And it almost looked like I think we had more rushing yards probably than we could have, based on the fact that we were almost just trying to run the clock out ourselves and get out of there in the second half, instead of just sitting back there and trying to throw the ball all over the field when we just don't really have the guys to do it. And I don't know what has happened with Justin Holman in regards to his performance, but some of his decision-making and, the way that he's playing right now, it's almost like you'd say, well, we might as well play Tyler Harris or Bo Schneider at this point in time, because I ultimately think those guys probably give us a better chance to win with the way that Justin's performing. We're in that football game there. He throws a post route into coverage. They ran a scissors route, so the slot receiver runs the corner, the outside receiver, Z or X, he runs the post, and he just read it completely wrong. And, you got Taylor Oldham there wide open for a touchdown. That's one of the easier routes combinations to read, in my opinion, in all of football, is that scissors route, and he just didn't make it happen.
Do you think Justin is worried about getting sacked, that he doesn't have enough time to throw it back there? What's going through his head that makes him play the way that he does right now?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's a number of factors at this point in the season. I'm a little bit surprised because Danny Barrett has been a really good quarterback coach in the past for us, played the position himself, obviously, coached at the CFL for 6 years, where as a head coach, where the quarterback position in that league is the most crucial position. And it's more magnified in that league because you only have 3 downs to get a first down, and people throw the ball all over the place. I think it's a combination of the young receivers, those guys not really winning for you, and the offensive line, maybe he's not comfortable back there. But some of the throws, he threw a double move route down the left sideline. He threw it about 6 yards out of bounds one time. And, that's not a Division I quarterback caliber of play right there. And I certainly had made plenty of bad throws in my career and ones that I wish I had back. The thing that's confusing about Justin is that you've seen him play so well, especially last year, leading us to a conference championship, to kind of go backwards in his performance so much so this season is the thing that's concerning to me.
Is it that we had great wide receivers surrounding him, and is he maybe not as good as we thought he was in the first place? That's come up a couple times when I've been talking to people.
Well, you got to look at it for what it is, right? At this point in time, no, he's not. Can he improve? He's a junior. I hope so. I think that with a new coaching staff, he's got to be performing. He's playing for a job next year. He's not the shoe-in guy anymore. Based on the performance that I've seen. Now, yes, the wide receiver core that we had last year, when you have a first-round wide receiver and then a couple other guys that have the potential to be in the NFL, I still think J.J. Ward will make his way into the league next season because of how talented he is. That makes a lot of things easier for the quarterbacks, and those guys can go up and make plays for you. I think that if we had those guys back this year, you would see a different Justin Holman. So that does make a big difference, but decision-making and where you're throwing the football in regards to accuracy, that doesn't, the wide receivers don't affect that too much, and that's the things that are concerning to me.
Well, we've definitely seen him be accurate at times, but then at other times not be accurate at all. I was looking at his stats real quick while you were talking, and he was 12 of 23, 1 interception, and his longest was 25, and he was sacked 1 time. Now, that again, as far as the offensive line, he was only sacked 1 time, but he gets out there and runs around quite a bit and avoids a lot of those sacks. He did have some running yards as well, but, I guess one positive that I'm finding there is he was only sacked 1 time. Now, he was also the only quarterback to throw a pass in the game. Tyler Harris, when he came in the fourth quarter, there was not 1 pass that was thrown, it doesn't look like, because he does not show up on the stats whatsoever. So that's interesting. And like you were saying, they just ran the ball to get out of there. Now, as far as the offensive line goes and making that situation better, what do we have to do? Where do we go to get that done? Do we have to go to junior college to get some guys that know how to play and can come in here and do something? We do that through recruiting. What can be done to make the offensive line better next year?
Well, I think that one of the things is we certainly need to make it an emphasis in recruiting. And junior college, it's like a patch, right? Because, you only get really 2 years of playing, maybe 3 sometimes based on how long the guy was in junior college if he was there for only 1 year. But you got to do something. And I think the junior college is an option to look at. Coach O'Leary didn't like to go to the junior college route, but this is going to be a new coach, so we'll see what they do. I think that if you need some guys for 1 year and there's any 50-year seniors out there who can transfer and play, you look at that option potentially. And then you really try to get the guys that are currently here better. But just watching them, they just look, there's just no point of attack. There's no movement at the point of attack. There's a lot of guys just that are really soft, coming off the ball, kind of, not attacking people. And it's just one of those things where maybe the junior college option is the way to go. But one thing you're selling recruits out there to these guys who are going to be freshmen next year is if you're an offensive lineman, you may go to a big school, a big school, Power 5 school, and sit for the first couple of years. But if you're really, really good and come to UCF, there's maybe a chance for you to get on the field right away. So I think we do need to solidify the center position as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true as far as recruiting goes. I mean, you'd be dumb to think that you couldn't come in here and take a starting job if you were a good player. Now,
right.
The other thing is I know that some of these guys have talent. I know they have talent. Are they not giving their all out there? Are they just going out in the beginning and being like, you know what, we can't win this game anyway. Let's just go through the motions. It seems like that to me. I hate to say that, just like you said that you hate to say that people are giving up or whatever. It's the same thing, though. Are these guys from the beginning just going out there and being like, let's just go through the motions, let's just get it over with and go home?
With some of the plays that I see, I think that sometimes that is the case. I like to hope that that's not for everyone, and that's probably not fair of me to say because I truly don't know. But I think that I would hope that is the case with some of the things that I'm seeing, because if it's not the case, then these guys just really aren't able to get the job done. And I hope they're not giving up. Because, like I said, there's a lot to play for in regards to for them being on the football field next year and these coaches coming in and evaluating this film right when they get in. But I'm sure there's some level of quit's not the right word, but maybe not giving everything that you have.
The other thing is, where did we go wrong? How did it get this bad, especially with the offensive line? I mean, didn't we, we saw that we were graduating all those guys. We saw that guys were leaving. Did we really, were we blinded when we were recruiting some of these guys if they're not that good? I mean, I just don't understand how this thing has gotten so bad.
Well, I think, offensive line is one of the more difficult positions to evaluate, in my opinion. And we've done such a good job of just teaching guys in the past, getting them up to speed. Even you look at a guy like Josh Sitton, who's been, who, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, is the best guard in the NFL for the Packers. When he came into UCF, he was a defensive tackle out of Pensacola, Florida. And I remember it to this day, Coach O'Leary being in the team meeting room and saying, hey, Josh, what do you think about moving to offensive line? And Josh said, yeah, I'll do it. And we turned a guy that came in as a two-star defensive tackle into an NFL all-pro offensive lineman and probably one of the most successful players to ever come out of UCF. And so I think that we've thought in the past that we could teach guys and coach them up and get them a lot better, but that hasn't seemed to be the case with the ones that we have now.
Tyler Hodanik, number one of the people that is a freshman this year, number 72, he was ranked as a 3-star coming in and, ranked in the top 80 of all offensive linemen. I saw his tape. I know that he can play, but he hasn't shown us that much. I know he's a freshman. It's a big difference. You're playing against not guys that are smaller than you, but a lot of guys that are either the same size or bigger than you, especially on a Cincinnati team and some of these other teams. But I just don't understand how a guy like that can come in and not do anything close to what he did on his tape, you know? That's just...
Well, yeah, the level of caliber of play that you're going against is certainly different than high school, and he's one of the guys that I always try to watch because I know that he was pretty highly recruited and a really good player, and I think he's probably a guy that'll get better this season. I mean, this off season in the weight room and sense of urgency, but you know, it'll be interesting to see what type of offense that we have next year, and how some of those guys fit into this offense. But you don't know if he was in a spread offense in high school where he was mainly pass blocking. Was he in a run first offense where he was, you know, blocking a lot in the running game? Because he's one of the guys that you kind of see standing up around the ball a lot of times. I don't think the line is as bad as we're probably making it out to be in this conversation. But when you can have one or two weak links, but when everybody's struggling, that's when it's as noticeable as it is now.
Absolutely. Now on to the head coach thing. Interim head coach Danny Barrett this week. Did you by chance get to see the video of him hyping everybody up before the game in the locker room?
No, I did not.
There was a video out there, and he was leading them in chants and all this stuff, you know, and it was really pretty amazing. It was very high energy. And then also, did you by chance get to see the post-game interview with him?
I have not seen any of those yet. No, I have not. I usually probably try to catch up on those on Sunday evenings, but with Halloween, it was so crazy yesterday.
I understand. I know you've had a busy week there at the Little Greek. Well, one of the glaring things, and we talked about this last week when we were talking about George O'Leary and the way that he handled things, one of the glaring things to me, and one of the things that I've been looking for and that we talked a little bit about last week, as I said, was that one of the things that he mentioned that was twice in the interview, which was about a minute and 25 seconds long, he said, "It's all on me. This is my deal. It's all on me." What do you think about that?
Well, I think he's a guy that's been, at that head coach position before. You know, I think that so many people have talked about the players all year long, and we've had a conversation. I don't think it's all on him by any stretch of the imagination. I think that if he was talking offensively, I certainly expected us to be better offensively in yesterday's game and to score more points based on his experience. So I can understand that from the offensive perspective. But, I think that's just him really saying that. Does he truly believe it? I don't know, but it is interesting.
It is. I'm sorry. I just thought it was kind of, I've been, why aren't they saying this? Why aren't they saying, and then he says it, twice in 2 minutes, basically. So
right.
I felt good about that, and it was something that I, had been looking for a long time, for somebody to take a little bit more responsibility. Let's go on with this head coaching conversation. What kind of guy would you want to see come in here and deal with the new head coaching job? Would you like to see an offensive-minded guy, a defensive-minded guy?
Well, for me, I think I would like to see an offensive-minded guy. I think that our brand of football here needs to be exciting. I think that to get a younger fan base like we have, more engaged this day and age of football, scoring points is going to be crucial. I think when you look at the conference and their ability to score, other teams' abilities to score, that it's obvious we need to move in that direction. When you look at the talent that we have in the state of Florida at the skill position, I think that we need to find ways to get really talented guys on the outside and get them the football. And if you ever think about moving to the Power 5, which seems so far away at this point in time, we're going to have to score points, especially if it's the Big 12. So I think that truly great offensive minds are harder to find than our defensive guys. I think you can hire a really good coordinator and be okay defensively, but I really do think that we need a guy that has an offensive mindset. And if we don't have a guy that's a true coordinator and offensive guy, I think that offensive coordinator position or a coaching position is going to be really important to find somebody that can spread it out and really utilize the type of talent that we have here in the state of Florida.
Now, is there anybody that you're interested in or that you would think would be a good fit for the head coaching position? We're going to talk about this a lot. This is going to be a subject until somebody's hired. We're going to speculate on it, and everybody else is. But is there somebody that you think of out there right now that's either available or would be available to come here or would want to come here that you would like to see, I guess?
Well, I'm not, I don't think that I've educated myself enough to probably give you the answer that I think you deserve in that regard. I do, and I'm trying to do that now, but I do like Coach Braum, and his brothers at Western Kentucky. I think they're doing a really good job there. I think they run a really fun style offense. They actually play really good defense as well. That's probably the first guy and only guy that I'll say in this conversation is Coach Braum. I don't know if I like the idea of kind of a retread coach, somebody who's been at a really high level and had success and something's happened in their career and now we would be an option for them. And I really think that this position at UCF is much more attractive than people think. I think it's more attractive than Illinois. I think it's more attractive than Miami. When you look at our location, and you got to remember, yes, these are football coaches, and ultimately they think about the program and those type of things. But when you look at where you live, if you're a coach, you're here in Central Florida, you got great weather, you don't live in a small town. If you're married and you have family, there's great schools around here, plenty to do. You're not in some little college town year-round. I think that the campus and the youth, there's not going to be a truly, really high expectation level right away, in my opinion, in regards to getting back to a top 10 team and those sort of things. I think everybody can see by what we've done on the field this year that it's going to take a little bit of time to build. But I think it's a really attractive position, and there's some people that would be interested in this job that maybe we haven't thought of yet. And so I'm going to, before I start throwing a ton of names out there, I want to educate myself more on it, see where the job openings really are here in the next couple of weeks, and then I think I can probably give a more educated answer down the road as who I think about.
All right, that sounds good to me. I need to educate myself a lot better as well. Now, there was another thing that was mentioned. Shannon Owens-Green reported that Justin Holman had said to her at one point that he would like to get a group of players together and talk to the new AD about who the new head coach is going to be. How do you think that would work with players going to the AD and asking or wanting to speak about who their next head coach is going to be?
I don't think that's really a position that they should be in my opinion. I think when you look at players, we come and go. We're only there for 4 or 5 years. Justin's only there for 1 more year. So I don't truly think that it is something that they should be in a position to do. However, if there's some things where they think the program can improve, those type of conversations may be important, and things that maybe they're struggling with as student athletes. However, if it's about who they think should be the new coach or qualities in a new coach, then I don't really think that's a conversation they should be having.
Well, I agree with you, and I had a little exchange on Twitter today between her and I and a few people, and that's what I kept trying to get across, that it's not really their job to do that. Now, somebody said, I believe it was her actually, she said they're entitled to that because they put their bodies on the line every week. What do you think about that? You played college football, I played college football. Yes, we put our bodies on the line, but are we entitled to more because of that?
I think you're entitled to a scholarship. I think you're entitled to room and board and food being paid for, and I think you're entitled to everything that scholarship encompasses. Making decisions about who your head coach is going to be or anything along those lines, I don't think that you're entitled to at all. I think, and the jury is still out, in my opinion, on Shannon Owens-Green and the type of beat writer she is, in my opinion. So for her to be going out there and saying that, there's not much else to talk about at this point in time, right? But I just don't think that the players, I can't think of anything that would give them the right to be a part of that decision. Like I said, if it's something that's going to better the well-being of the student-athlete as far as their living situations or their college experience as a whole, or maybe some things that they'd like to see changed, then I think that there's something to be said about that. But for them to give any input on, what input are they going to give, in my opinion? What are they really going to say? We want to be more offensive minded, or we think this guy is a good candidate, or can we get more of a player's coach? What are they really going to bring to the table in that regard in those type of conversations?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's a little crazy, actually, to even involve players in that conversation. I know that I went out there and I was expected to play hard for whoever it was. It didn't matter if they changed it every week. I was still expected to play hard for everybody. So,
if I was Justin Holman, I would be concerned about my play on the field at this point in time rather than who our next head coach is.
Well, and that was one of the statements that I made as well. They need to be more concerned with winning right now than they need to be concerned with who the next head coach is. That was exactly my point. And that was one of the very first things that I said in reply to that. So what's going on at the Little Greek this week? You said you had a busy week.
Well, we've broken our records 3 weeks in a row. The support has been incredible. We had a great night last night for Halloween, and we're just moving along here. Not much to change. We do have some other locations that will be opening here before the end of the year, out in the Loop in Kissimmee, and then one in Celebration next to their big Publix out in Celebration. So there are plenty of franchising opportunities right now at this point in time, investment opportunities. Those are all things that I'm continuously looking for, or people that want to be owner-operators or want to invest into an operating team that would be able to operate your particular franchise. So continually looking for new franchisees, and this store has been doing so great that that's made the process certainly easier. But for anybody that knows anybody out there that are looking for investment opportunities or franchising opportunities, I think Little Greek's a place they should strongly consider.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for joining us. I know that this gets more and more difficult to talk about every week. I thank you for hanging in there and being with us every week.
Yeah, no problem. I'm staying strong. I'm still pulling for the guys every week. I think that we got two teams that I really don't like in East Carolina and South Florida coming up down the road on the schedule. So looking to see hopefully a better performance and ultimately some more time to spend with family and friends for those last two home games.
Absolutely. All right, we will talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right, good insight from Kyle. After 9 weeks, the American now 8-13 against the Power 5. Best win of the weekend. I mean, how do you look past Houston, 8-0 now, shutting out the SEC Vanderbilt Commodores 34-0. Memphis also perfect 8-0, 41-13 over Tulane. Those two teams climbed in the rankings. Memphis now 15-1 poll, Houston 18. Even though it was a loss, I'll tell you what, Temple showed something. The primetime game on ABC, Notre Dame rallied in that one, beat Temple. Still ranked, by the way, Temple in the top 25. So 3 American teams in the top 25. Other winners, Navy became bowl eligible quietly. Nobody's talking about Navy. They beat the Tampa School 29-17. UConn beat East Carolina. Tulsa outlast SMU. This week's UCF opponent, Tulsa. And again, the only downside was that Notre Dame rallied to beat Temple, of course, besides UCF. Week 10, American, Temple SMU Friday night. Cincinnati heads to Houston. This should be a good one. Navy at Memphis. UConn's at Tulane, and the Cows head to East Carolina. Andrew, both teams need 2 wins to become bowl eligible. I really don't want South Florida U to need a victory over UCF on Thanksgiving night in order to become bowl eligible. So I'm hoping that doesn't end up being the case for them.
Yeah, that would be kind of ugly, and if we could win one of those 2 last games, we could maybe be a spoiler there for them. That would be absolutely incredible. Yeah, the AAC is great this year, but we're missing the boat. It's kind of a bummer that UCF, can't get things together, and with a year that is so great for the AAC that we have to be in the toilet like we are. It's horrible. I don't like it.
A team that made a coaching change after last season was Tulsa, a rival of UCF in Conference USA, just 2-10 last year, and they're 2 wins away from being bowl eligible. And let's hear what our Tulsa insider has to say about the Golden Hurricane.
5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent. This week, 0-9 UCF travels to Tulsa for Saturday noon Eastern game with the Golden Hurricane. Joining us now for more information on Tulsa is Kelly Hines, beat writer for the Tulsa World. Kelly, thanks for stopping by on the UCF Knightline podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So, Tulsa outscored SMU 40-31 to move to 4-4 under first-year head coach Philip Montgomery. Last year, the Golden Hurricane finished 2-10. Talk about the progress Tulsa has made this year.
Yeah, I think they've made more progress than even the record shows. You know, they've lost 4 games, as you mentioned, but 3 of those were to top 25 teams, and then the other one was East Carolina, which I think is, you know, an up-and-down team that's actually pretty good. So, you know, I think they're a lot more competitive in games and certainly, you know, more fun to watch on offense. And, you know, it's kind of Phil Montgomery's thing that he brought from Baylor. So, you know, the defense has improved also. The stats don't really show it, but, you know, they were able to get a pick 6 yesterday against SMU that ended up being pretty significant.
Well, leading the offense this year is junior quarterback Dane Evans, who completed 60% of his passes and thrown for 15 touchdowns. What can UCF fans expect from Evans?
You know, I think that he definitely has gotten better since last season. He's not as prone to interceptions. You know, the one thing that's been a little bit difficult for him is avoiding getting sacked. You know, he likes a little bit more time than he's been given, you know, to make his decisions. But I think that he is overall a lot more composed and you know, he has a great arm. Like, that's never been in question. You know, it's just a matter of having enough time and making good decisions. And, you know, had some injuries at receiver, lost their top guy, Kevin Lucas, last month. So, you know, they still have a lot of talent at that position. But, you know, when one guy goes down, it definitely affects Dane. And, you know, I think he's kind of weathered through that. And, you know, he's done pretty good, I think.
Kieris Garrett leads the wide receivers with nearly 1,000 yards this season and 5 touchdowns. He leads a dangerous group of wideouts with Zach Langer has scored 14 touchdowns. Tell us about these key players.
Yeah, Kieris Garrett, I think, is a guy with some NFL potential. And, you know, he's 6'4". He's kind of difficult for guys to match up against, but he's kind of like on or off. He either has a really good game or he just disappears. And, you know, against teams like OU and Memphis, you know, he had great, like, career highs. But then, you know, against SMU, he had almost 4 catches. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. But, you know, they have another guy, Josh Atkinson, who kind of came out of nowhere this year. And he had 5 games in a row with 100 yards. And, you know, he had an injury against Memphis and isn't quite back to 100% yet. But he's another guy who, you know, he's an option down the field for sure. They do throw to their running back, Zach Langer, here and there. And, you know, he's another target. And then they, you know, they don't, as I mentioned, they don't have Kevin Lucas anymore, but they have Connor Floyd as a slot receiver. And he's pretty consistent, especially on 3rd down. And then they have another young guy, Justin Hobbs, who had 150 yards against SMU and is kind of an up-and-comer. So they certainly have a few weapons there.
Tulsa seems to be in a shootout every week. Where's the defense after 8 games?
You know, I think the stats are somewhat skewed based on, you know, who they've played. As I mentioned, you know, Oklahoma put up, you know, almost 800 yards of offense. And then, you know, Memphis, Paxton Lynch is pretty legitimate. And, you know, Houston's quarterback pretty much killed Tulsa on some long runs. So, you know, I think the defense has improved. Especially their pass defense has gotten a lot better since last season, but they're a lot more susceptible to long runs this year. So, you know, I think the secondary, it's a work in progress, and they're making strides, you know, getting stops here and there, but, you know, they haven't quite turned that corner yet.
Tulsa needs 2 wins in its Final 4 to become bowl eligible. What do you think happens with UCF at home, Cincy on the road, Navy at home, and regular season finale at Tulane?
Yeah, I mean, to get 2 out of the last 4, you know, I think Tulsa will be favored against UCF. And, you know, the game at Tulane, you know, I think that's the game that they could also win. You know, to win at Cincinnati and to beat Navy. I think that's asking a lot from this team when, they're kind of in that initial rebuilding stage. So, for them to get those 2 wins, I think would be huge for the program, just to show that they're making progress and they're on the right track. But, even those games, there's no gimme. I mean, it really just depends on, how well they play. And, they've been somewhat unpredictable, but, I think so far they've lost the games they probably should have lost. They've won the games they probably should have won.
All right, on. Well, UCF definitely is probably going to be one of their easier games this year. We're playing pretty horrible, so I don't think that's probably going to be a problem. Hopefully we'll just have a decent game and, people will come out unhurt and things like that. We really appreciate you joining us, and good luck this week against UCF.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, well, if you're looking for more stuff, you can always look on YouTube where we have the extras. We're going to have something later on in the week about UCF hockey, believe it or not. And then also last week I talked to Knight fan Stan. He had a lot of things to say. He's going through some tough times right now, as well as the UCF program, and he is sticking it out and, giving everybody a positive outlook, of course. And, so check that out on YouTube, and it's called Extra. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Junior golfer Ashley Holder finished tied for second at the Landfall Tradition in Wilmington, North Carolina. The Knights finished 16th in team competition.
Women's soccer racking up the accolades. Junior Carol Rodriguez is the American Offensive Player of the Week, 3rd time this season. Goalkeeper Vera Veras was chosen as Rookie of the Week for the 3rd consecutive week. Now, up next, the American tournament begins Tuesday in Dallas with UCF taking on Temple.
The Americans' preseason media polls are out. The men's hoops projected 9th. Women's hoops also projected 9th. Meet both teams during Fan Night on Tuesday, November 10th at 7 p.m. at the CFE Arena.
Sophomore men's golfer Manuel Elvira picked up his first career victory, sharing medalist honors at the Hilton Homewood Airport Invitational in Estero, Florida.
Rowing was in the water for the 2nd consecutive weekend at Clemson.
Women's tennis wrapping up singles and doubles wins all weekend at the Wildcat Invitational in Daytona Beach. Up next, the Disney tournament at Lake Buena Vista begins Thursday.
Success for men's tennis over the weekend, too. The Florida Gulf Coast Invite at Fort Myers. Up next, the USTA Clay Court Invitational in Orlando begins on Thursday.
Volleyball with sweeps at Tulane Sunday and Houston on Friday. Up next, the Knights are at the Cows on Wednesday before returning home versus Temple next Sunday.
Black beats gold 4-0 in baseball's annual black and gold game. Junior outfielder Eli Putnam with 2 RBIs on 3 hits.
All 5 of the Knights scorers posted season best times as Cross finished 7th at the American Cross Country Championship in Grimesland, North Carolina.
Men's soccer beat Cincinnati 1-0 on senior night on Saturday, and Memphis by the same score earlier in the week. Up next, the 5th-seeded Knights travel to Tulsa on Saturday for a quarterfinal match for the American Championship. I think that's going to do it for us, Trace. Thank you very much for joining me all the way from wherever it is that you're at this week. You're always in a different place, and I can't quite figure it out. But
I'm always on the move, Andrew. Just once, I would like to work on one of these podcasts this season where we talk about a win. I don't know that we'll know what to do with ourselves if UCF should be victorious, but let's hope it gets going this weekend at Tulsa.
All righty. Well, that is episode number 58. Next week, Trace will be back in studio. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF Knights! UCF, let's go Knights! UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. B-S-E-T-O-R-Y tonight.